Damodar Pratap Singh joining us on NewsX. 2 years ago, NewsX brought you a campaign for a terror attack that was forgotten by the world. While Justin Trudeau in Canada was busy appeasing the Khalistanis, he was naive enough to not know that Khalistanis were responsible for the worst terror attack in the history of Canada. Air India Flight 182 was bombed by the Babbar Khalsa on the morning of June 23, 1985. 329 people on board, including 268 Canadian citizens, 27 British citizens and 22 Indian citizens were killed. The perpetrators were Inderjeet Singh Riat and Talvinder Singh Parmar. NewsX examined the John C. Major report. The official commission of inquiry into the investigation of the bombing exposed a series of errors and lapses from the Canadian Security Intelligence Service that could not stop this terror attack. You can visit Kanishka Files on NewsX's playlist, which is available on our YouTube channel, to see our investigative series. Now, Indian Union Minister Piyush Goyal has visited the Kanishka Memorial in Canada, met with the victims' families and paid his homage to them. We're now taking forward this campaign. It's time to build the Kanishka Memorial in India. We need to remind the world the reality of these Khalistani terrorists. This is a fight for truth and justice that we must continue fighting. It's time you join the campaign as well and make an appeal to build the Kanishka Memorial. Let's open it up and bring in at this point Sanjay Lazar, family of the Kanishka bombing victim. He's live with us. Also with us, Ambassador Bhashpati Mukherjee, former diplomat. Surinder Singh Lali, foreign affairs expert, also joins us. Mr. Lazar, let me begin with you first. What were your first thoughts when you saw the Union Commerce and Industry Minister visit the Kanishka Memorial there in Canada, pay homage to the victims who lost their loved ones, in that horrific bombing, as a family member of someone who died as well in that attack? What did you make of that gesture?
Thank you for having me on your show again, and thank you to NewsX for taking up this issue over the last 3 years. I've had the privilege and honor of being on many of your shows in relation to the Kanishka bombing and Khalistani issues and Canada, of course. But you've been the one channel that stood out. So before I say anything, I want to, convey my gratitude to your channel for bringing this in the eyes of the media, of the public, of everybody. It was touching to see the Honorable Minister at the memorial in Humber Bay in Toronto. We did get advance notice that the Honorable Minister was going to be visiting, so they wanted all families, as many families as they could connect, so that he could, individually meet them and speak to them. It's delightful. We've seen Hardeep Puri ji as a minister also going. We've seen Manmohan Singh ji as PM visiting the same memorial. Modi ji has visited 3 of the memorials. Ironically, Canada has 5 memorials across its country. Ireland has 1. And I have been writing to various governments for 40 years, or 38 years to be precise, to various prime ministers and presidents, saying that this was an Indian aircraft with Indian crew, with Canadian Indian passengers as well, and it was the territory of India. Why do we not have a memorial in India? And, even last year I was promised by an entire delegation that the PMO sent to Ireland, and I chased it up with various cabinet ministers, but to no avail. And I do hope that, this is the first step. And now the NewsX has taken it up in all earnest. And I can see, we've got the ambassador and Laliji here on the panel with me. I'm sure they will lend their weight to this campaign. And it's time. You see, this was the worst terror attack in the history of aviation until 9/11. It is till today the worst bombing. And whether it's Kanishka or whether it's the Khalistani atrocities across Punjab, the Indian people need to commemorate the dead who have lost their lives in all these terrorist attacks, whether there are Pulwama or number of them. And I think we need to build one central monument, that takes care of all these things. Okay, thanks.
Absolutely. And we saw, of course, the results of our campaign. Suddenly the country began talking about the issue then, and we saw Parliament also. The Indian Parliament paid tribute as well. Officially, the Lok Sabha Speaker led that, moments of silence in which the government MPs and opposition MPs participated. So obviously the country was speaking about it. But is it time to take that one step further? Looking at the sentiment, looking at the fact that a majority of the victims were from India or Indian origin, should we build this memorial here? Sanjay.
Yes, of course. Uday, I 100% credit your channel with the movement that began 2, 3 years ago, and I think you did it with a very conscious effort because you'd seen, the rewriting of history in Canada by Khalistani separatists, and of course the previous government with the NDP was affiliated with. We saw them raising this in the Canadian Parliament, and then your channel came out and interviewed so many of us victims, so many experts like Laliji and Ambassador Mukherjee, and so many others, and brought out whether it was the Justice Kirpal report. I remember those days. I remember the John Major report that you all went through episode by episode. So it has come into the collective conscience of our nation after for 38 years at that time. Today it's 40 years complete. We are in the 41st year. So I think it's a big step, and it is time. And it's been time for a long time to have a memorial, not to, deify the terrorists, but to make people remember the horrors of terrorism. The horrors of, I travel every year across the world, Uday, speaking against terrorism in all forms, whether it's in Israel, in Europe, or in North America, especially Canada and the US. And I keep talking about this as a victim who's lost his entire family as a teenager. I think it's essential that somebody who's lived the experience talks about it. And the important thing is, if you visit Ireland and look at the monument that they've created, the three governments, it's such a serene and peaceful place. If you go to one of the memorials across Canada,
Yes.
you'll see it. We need that in India.
Yes, yes. And why did people forget about it? Why was it forgotten for a long time before we suddenly remembered and, we brought it up at NewsX? Why was this forgotten, Sanjay?
Well, I can give you very controversial reasons. Maybe the ambassador is better placed because she's a diplomat, but I think it was convenient for the government of the day to have forgotten it. It was after decades and decades that Prime Minister Modi sent ministers to Ireland to commemorate it. And last year, a group of 7 Sikh ministers, MPs, MLAs, heads of various governments from various states traveled to Ireland. And I was with them. I met all of them. It was led by, Honorable Minister Hardeep Puri ji. So I think priorities have changed. The government of the day has changed. And of course, those days back in the 80s and the 90s, the government of that day didn't want to antagonize the Khalistanis. And that was the odd thing for me.
And also, how did it make you feel that the Canadian government was appeasing the Khalistanis?
Well, that came about when Justin Trudeau came in 7 or 8 years ago. And that was a gruesome moment for me. And that was what got me thinking that if these guys are trying to rewrite international history, it's like saying, Osama bin Laden didn't bomb or didn't create the 9/11 tragedy. And,
Yes.
and it's unthinkable. For me, as a kid who sat in a courtroom, a bulletproof courtroom in Vancouver, staring at these accused and through the John Major inquiry, it was gut-wrenching. We'd lost the families all over again. Therefore, I set out saying that, we need to correct this anomaly of history.
Okay.
We need to place the facts on record.
Okay.